I tried to force the most popular girl in school to be my girlfriend. When she refused, as the school bully, I had people beat her up every day until she agreed. With just a small trick, I successfully turned Mu Cheng and Chang Haitang against each other, making them bitter enemies. Chang Haitang was too afraid to leave her house, completely unable to imagine that Mu Cheng would plot against her. And this man, wearing a mask-like business-like expression, pushed the contract in front of her and said, "For the good of the company, you should sign this agreement." Mu Cheng, Chang Haitang said through gritted teeth, "You truly are an ungrateful wretch. I should have let that car kill you back then." "So you admit it?" Mu Cheng's face remained impassive as he watched her in silence. "I have tolerated you for a very long time. What did Yi King ever do wrong for you to want to take her life?" "You're still thinking about her." Chang Haitang slammed the table. "Think about it yourself. After all these years I've been with you, when have you ever cared for me this much? You still have her photograph in your desk. You're the one who killed her. It was your infidelity. You made such beautiful promises to me back then, saying you only loved me. Is this how you love me?" "You're insane," Mu Cheng cursed. "All these years I never took care of them, the mother and daughter. I watched my own daughter suffer and wander, and my heart was already filled with guilt. But you couldn't even leave them alone. You truly are insane. I believe I have done everything I possibly could for you. Sign the agreement. Rest assured, I will not shortchange Mu Qian on what she is owed. But a woman like you, I dare not keep you by my side." My involvement was simple. Upon learning that Mu Cheng merely intended to drive Chang Haitang from the house, I sat in a late-night internet cafe, lollipop in mouth, and hacked into the back-end of their official website. This wasn't enough. Mu Cheng was too naive. He wouldn't be able to drive Chang Haitang away. Even though he had maintained the company for so many years, he had forgotten that it originally belonged to the Chang family. Even without Chang Haitang, there were still other family members. A mere romantic scandal was far too easy to manage. In the end, he might even be coerced, just bringing trouble upon himself. Having traveled through so many worlds, I had nearly maxed out all my skill points. In this underdeveloped small world, an unsophisticated website system could be altered in a matter of minutes. The media was already watching the corporation, hoping to dig up a major story. When message boxes accusing them of collusion, inaction, and an unpunished murder that defied justice popped up from the official website, they instantly went into a frenzy. Beginning that night, the critical storyline most affecting Mu Wanning officially entered its final countdown. My original estimate was 6 months, but now it seems it could end a bit sooner. I was peeling an apple for Mu Wanning. The wounds on her body were mostly healed. It was just a pity that her already scar-covered body now bore a few more small scars. In contrast to my distress, Mu Wanning appeared quite relaxed. She felt that having a few scars on her body was nothing to worry about. Mu Wanning subconsciously touched her face. Thankfully, she had protected it well at the time and hadn't gotten it scratched. "In the next few days, I'll go to the company and get what your father wants." As I said this, the apple peel snapped. My tone was somewhat nonchalant. "That's not really necessary. I know what Gu King is thinking. He wants to ruin Mu Cheng's company and use that as a foothold to enter the capital. Don't you want to have power and money?" I looked up at her, then resumed peeling the rest of the apple. "The Mu family is in complete chaos right now. If we just push a little harder, you can absolutely fight for those things. There's only Mu Qian left, and I have a way to deal with her." Before I could finish speaking, the words caught in my throat. Because Mu Wanning was looking at me, her gaze heavy with an obscure, unreadable emotion. "I've never wanted any of that," Mu Wanning said softly. And I've never considered myself part of the Mu family. When did you start planning this? Mu Wanning's demeanor gradually became more intimidating. She half leaned on the bed, bending forward. Or did you know I was part of the Mu family from the very beginning, and that's why you were nice to me, because you wanted the Mu family for yourself? I hastily turned my head away. I didn't mean that. I just thought that if you wanted it, I would fight for it. I felt I had done something wrong again. It seemed I was too fixated on the plot of the original story, always trying to push her onto her predestined path. Back then, was power truly all she wanted? But there was nothing I could do. I lowered my head and didn't answer. Once I leave, Mu Wanning will be all alone again, solitary and without support. The mere thought of this deeply troubled me. I cut the apple in my hand into pieces and held one to Mu Wanning's lips. It's very sweet. Mu Wanning opened her mouth. Honestly, I never wanted you to get involved in that kind of world. I just wanted to make your life a little better. I lowered my head, let out a long sigh, and asked, "Have you ever heard the saying that no one can walk with you to the very end but yourself?" Mu Wanning's movements paused. Suddenly, with a fierce determination, she seized my arm. "What do you mean?" "What I mean is, life is full of unexpected events." Never mind. If you don't want it, then don't, as long as you're happy. Gu Xian, I told you, I don't like it when you hide things from me. Mu Wanning didn't let go. Instead, she tightened her grip. If you have something to say, just say it. I'll do whatever you want, but can you please stop saying things that make me feel like you could leave me at any moment? My wrist ached. A faint redness was already appearing where she had been pulling it. Faced with my indifferent expression, Mu Wanning's pent-up resentment finally softened. Her voice carried a tone of pleading, her words trembling. Her eyes began to redden, and her voice was unbelievably soft as she spoke with a sense of grievance. "I'm scared. I'm really scared." Mu Wanning pulled me closer to her. "I don't even know why I'm like this. If you don't like it, I can change." I reached out and put my arm around her shoulder. "You don't have to change anything. I'll never say it again. You want me to study medicine, so I'll retake the exams this year and go to medical school. I'll study hard, just wait for me. I want to grow old with you, okay?" Mu Wanning looked like a child afraid of losing a toy, her vulnerability laid bare. It was hard for me to say no, so I agreed against my will. In truth, leaving the system was destined to be the end of my life in this world. But there were other ways. "Then you must live a good life." I turned halfway to look her in the eye, my voice filled with worry. "I like people who are kind and innocent." A startled look crossed Mu Wanning's face. She felt as if my gaze had pierced through to the filth in her heart, stinging her with pain. Innocent, kind, she was not the least bit of either. Mu Wanning didn't even know what such people were like. But since I liked it, she would learn to become that way. Mu Wanning's method was effective. Mu Cheng trusted her very much. She easily reached Mu Cheng's office, and, just as he was leaving, inserted the USB drive into his computer. Throughout the entire process, Mu Wanning remained calm and composed. Not until the screen indicated completion did she remove the USB drive, her mission accomplished. All of Chang Haitang's secrets were exposed. On the day of the court hearing, Mu Wanning secretly went to observe. The woman, who had once possessed a mature charm, had become gaunt in a short period of time. Her mother's death was not revealed. This hearing was about another past incident dug up by reporters, another one of Mu Cheng's romantic indiscretions. The young woman was 7 months pregnant when she died on the operating table. The methods used were almost identical. The young woman was only 19 when she died. Upon hearing that Chang Haitang had been sentenced to 10 years, I took Mu Wanning's hand and said, "Let's go." In any case, she got the retribution she deserved, I said softly. The law will never let a single culprit escape. Mu Wanning didn't speak. She understood clearly that without me, the justice that was due would not have arrived so quickly. I walked out of the main hall and stretched, and the next moment Mu Wanning embraced me from behind. Her voice was deep as she uttered a single word, "Thank you." In that instant, a system notification indicated that her corruption value had been reduced to 30. I turned my head and leaned down, kissing the corner of her lips. "You should thank yourself too," I said with a faint smile. "Your life was so bitter before, but you persevered." I reached out and gently tousled her hair. "You've been through a lot." I also had to thank Mu Wanning for the mercy of not killing me, and for giving me the opportunity to complete my mission. Gu King got what he wanted. At a public event, he announced Mu Wanning's identity as my fiancée and promised to hold a wedding for them upon their graduation from university. That very evening, the Mu Corporation fell into crisis. Mu Cheng's computer contained a wealth of incriminating information, which Gu King traded with Mu Cheng's rival for a trump card to establish himself in the capital. When Mu Wanning heard that her father had been imprisoned for tax evasion and bribing officials, she remained cold and detached. She was even more indifferent upon hearing that Mu Cheng wanted to see her. She told the messenger that she had never intended to acknowledge Mu Cheng as her father, and that his very existence disgusted her. Now Mu Wanning held my hand as we strolled down the street. "Speaking of which, do you really have no intention of seizing the Mu family's assets?" I asked. "I won't seize what isn't mine," Mu Wanning said. She turned to look at me and said, "We don't need to take what belongs to others. But if there's something you really want, I'll work hard for it." I clicked my tongue at those words. If she didn't want it, so be it. The Mu family was now nothing more than an empty shell. Mu Qian's mother was gone, and Mu Wanning's darkness value was hovering around 5. Logically speaking, hadn't all the people she sought revenge against already met their deserved end? "I'm planning to withdraw from school soon," Mu Wanning said. "I'm going to apply to retake the university entrance exam this year." "Why?" "Have you forgotten? I want to study medicine," Mu Wanning said, pinching my cheek. "There are doctors everywhere, but I wouldn't be at ease letting them treat you." "There's no need," I thought for a moment. "It's incurable anyway." Mu Wanning frowned. "Weren't you the one who said you wanted me to study medicine, that a doctor's white coat would suit me? But I've changed my mind. I want you to study something you actually like." "What you need is what I like," Mu Wanning replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Seeing how insistent she was, I fell silent for a moment. "I'll talk to my dad." "With your grades, it should be easy to pull some strings and transfer, right? I don't want to rely on others." No matter how much Mu Wanning changed, her core pride remained intact. I didn't insist. It was for the best that she leave. This would completely sever the ties to Lin Zixuan and Shen Yu. "As you wish." I rented an apartment nearby. The counselors were regretful about Mu Wanning's application to withdraw, but no one could sway her from her decision. Every day I attended my classes, and when I returned, I would find Mu Wanning either grinding through practice questions for the college entrance exam or engrossed in medical books. The days passed, one after another, but I was still waiting for her darkness value to reach 0. What lingering obsession could she possibly still have? I couldn't figure it out. Little assistant, even the little assistant didn't know. In the agony of having no points, I had lost my special ability to know the targ its innermost thoughts. All I could do was lie in bed, tossing and turning, running through the plot of the original story in my mind. Things had reached a stalemate, and I felt utterly helpless. Half of the 6-month period had passed, and the days were growing colder. Seeing that I was leaving for school early in the morning, Mu Wanning brought over a coat and draped it over my shoulders. "What do you want for lunch?" "You're so thoughtful," I said, wrapping my arm around her waist. "Just cook whatever you like. I'll enjoy anything you make." Mu Wanning chuckled softly. "I'll be waiting for you at home. Pick up a jar of your favorite jam on your way back." I nodded. Mu Wanning fastened my buttons one by one all the way to the top and smoothed down my slightly messy short hair. I kissed her cheek. "I'm off now." Reluctantly, I took a few steps back. Mu Wanning waved and nodded at me, then watched as I got into the elevator. At the thought of one day becoming my wife, a peculiar and fearful emotion stirred in Mu Wanning's heart. She feared she wouldn't take good care of me, and that things were going so smoothly the price to pay later would be too steep. I wasn't concerned with how things were progressing between Shen Yu and Lin Zixuan. After I moved out of the dormitory, and since the three of us were in different classes, our paths barely crossed. We weren't on terms to even exchange greetings, which saved us from having to put on a false pretense. As soon as school was out, I went to the supermarket. It looked like it might rain today, and the autumn wind was biting. I rubbed my hands together as I idly pushed a shopping cart, when suddenly I heard arguing from the next aisle. A single glance was enough to make me freeze in place. It couldn't be. That man looked vaguely familiar. He had a scar on his face, stretching from his forehead to the corner of his eye. Its stark red color made him look fierce. After pondering for a moment, I tapped the shopping cart sharply. It came back to me. It was the first time I had seen him in this real world, but he had left a deep impression on me when I viewed the original plot in the system space. This was the hoodlum who had ruined Mu Wanning's mother's reputation back then. Back in those days, his arrogance knew no bounds. But I didn't recall Mu Wanning ever getting revenge on him. Could it be that this man was the trigger for Mu Wanning's descent into darkness? The man was arguing with a sales clerk. I casually loitered nearby, surreptitiously listening in on their meaningless conversation. I grabbed a few items at random, and the moment I saw the man starting to leave, I followed right after him. After checking out, I carried my small bag of groceries and secretly followed behind him. The man slipped into a car, and I instructed my driver to follow it. The driver was bewildered, but he had to follow the young master's orders. After a series of twists and turns, the man arrived at a rundown bungalow. I wasn't sure what was happening, but the sound of a woman's weeping, mixed with the noise of things being smashed, came from inside. Without a moment's hesitation, I dialed 110. "Officer, there's a fight happening here. A man is chasing and beating a woman. He's about to kill her. We're at 74 Qingjong Road. Officers, please hurry. The woman is on the verge of death." After doing this, I had the driver move the car to a corner and waited until the police arrived. It wasn't long before the man was led out. I quickly snapped a photo, planning to show it off to Mu Wanning later. The moment the corruption value is cleared to 0, I can apply to leave this world. Mu Wanning had checked my class schedule multiple times. I was 2 hours later than usual getting back. Frowning, she was just about to make a call when she heard me return. The food had already gone cold. I didn't care in the slightest, sneaking into the kitchen for a couple of quick bites before returning to the room. "Hey, I just saw something interesting on my way here and wanted to share it with you." Mu Wanning looked somewhat exasperated and let out a sigh. "Why didn't you tell me? You just went off quietly to watch the excitement. I thought something had happened to you." "What could possibly happen to me?" I thought she was acting a little strange, so I glanced at her and pulled out my phone. "I just saw a man hitting his wife, so I called the police. And let me tell you, the police are really effective. They have 0 tolerance for any potential criminal activity. It was so comical, the way he was being escorted away. Grinning, I held up my phone for Mu Wanning to see. Mu Wanning's pupils constricted. Before I even had a chance to be happy, I heard, "Villain's corruption value, 90. Gu Xian, where did you see this man?" Mu Wanning looked at me calmly. A saying suddenly came to mind, the sea is always deceptively calm before a storm. I swallowed subconsciously, the words tumbling out in a stutter. "Don't tell me, you know him. You'll probably have to look for him at the police station. He didn't seem like a good person. I doubt he'll be getting out anytime soon." "Where did you see him?" I flinched. Mu Wanning took a step towards me. "What were you doing in a place like that?" "I was just wandering around because I was bored." I lied with a perfectly straight face. Mu Wanning looked at me for a long time, then sighed. Her darkening value also dropped, getting stuck at the borderline of 5. I had never been so grateful for the number 5. But one thing was certain, Mu Wanning's darkening value had nothing to do with old matters. "Wash your hands, let's eat." Mu Wanning had already set out the chopsticks. A moment later she added, "If you're going to be home late next time, remember to let me know. No matter what happens, you must report to me at the earliest opportunity." After saying this, Mu Wanning frowned. "Am I being a little too controlling?" "No, not at all. This is great," I quickly denied. Her controlling nature, possessiveness, and paranoia, all these things combined were what made her Mu Wanning. I never expected Mu Wanning to change. It was good for her to be herself, and it wasn't my business anyway. She didn't speak, sitting across the table, quietly lost in thought. It was only by observing that I noticed Mu Wanning had been spacing out frequently lately. Her mood fluctuated, and the daily announcements on her favorability score changed at least 3 times a day, which was considered a small number. Fortunately, her favorability score had never dropped below 50. I then mentioned some trivial matters from school. Mu Wanning suddenly looked up and interjected, "Is the food good?" "It's delicious." I bit on my chopsticks. Mu Wanning frowned. "Why can't the food shut your mouth?" The atmosphere became a bit icy. I thought for a moment, "Do you think I'm annoying?" Mu Wanning set her chopsticks aside, her eyes lowered. "I don't like you saying good things about others. I don't want to hear it at all." She was terribly insecure and rubbed the spot between her eyebrows. "I'm full. I'll clear the dishes in a bit. I'll take you to school this afternoon." I didn't know what I'd said wrong and could only watch as Mu Wanning left the table. I took a quick bite of my food. Mu Wanning's mind, I figured, probably worked differently from most people's. Mu Wanning offered to walk me and took me right to the classroom door, where she finally met the classmate I had been mentioning so often lately. The girl was indeed as pretty as I'd said, with a great figure. She smiled the moment she saw me. Mu Wanning's lips curved into an intriguing, cold smile. "Hey," she said. I had praised the girl's sense of style, and also mentioned that she seemed aloof and friendless, but was always very warm to me. Today, I'd even told Mu Wanning how during the exam, she'd scribbled answers at lightning speed and passed them to me. That was when Mu Wanning couldn't take it anymore. I probably hadn't realized that my focus on this classmate had become excessive. Mu Wanning looked the girl up and down with a hostile gaze, then pulled me close and kissed my forehead. "Go on, study hard." My classmates all knew I had a beautiful girlfriend, but seeing her in person, they were truly impressed and couldn't stop sighing at our public display of affection. I smiled, nodded, and waved. "All right, I'm going to class." "Wait." She suddenly seemed to remember something and hurried off, returning a moment later with a bottle of room temperature green tea. "I don't want to drink this, then just look at it, go on to class." Mu Wanning gave me a gentle push. She didn't leave right away, instead leaning against the doorframe with her hands in her pockets, her eyes fixed on that girl. She only left when the teacher arrived. Holding the bottle of green tea, I was still trying to figure out what Mu Wanning meant. The way your girlfriend looked at me just now was really fierce. Seeing that Mu Wanning had left, the girl turned around from her seat in the front row. Gu Shiguan, does your girlfriend have a bit of a bad temper? I was stunned for a moment, the question not quite registering. Not at all. Why would you think that? We girls understand each other best. Have you two just started dating? Looking at the green tea in my hand, I began to understand. The girl kept talking. Right now, she still treats you like a treasure. Wait until you've been together longer, and her true temper will be revealed. Look, she's like that even to a stranger. Her attitude toward her boyfriend later on definitely won't be any good. Listening to this, I nodded and handed her the bottle of green tea. What? The girl was taken aback. I smiled. My girlfriend bought it for you. But the girl was right about one thing. Girls understand other girls best. My Mu Wanning had indeed seen through her true nature in a single glance. As if sensing my thoughts, Mu Wanning, the very person on my mind, looked up from her desk by the window. The curtain stirred, letting in a sliver of warm sunlight that slipped into the palm of her hand. Unfortunately, light cannot be held in one's hand. And what of Gu Shiguan? She opened her palm again, gazing at her enveloped fingertips. Would he quietly stay by her side for a lifetime? There were too many things about me that she couldn't understand. She felt a sense of dread. She knew I would never harm her, because my every action was performed with a sincerity so genuine. It was as if I were ready to tear out my heart for her to see. What were his motives, and what did he want to gain from her? To this day, Mu Wanning had not figured it out, nor did she want to. This self-deception might be foolish, but she still clung to a sliver of hope. For instance, that I could keep deceiving her like this for a lifetime. What on earth was Mu Wanning thinking? This question had plagued me for a full 4 months. Every time I looked at Mu Wanning, I had an overwhelming urge to ask her, what unresolved feelings do you still have that could possibly cause you to turn to darkness? But each time I managed to hold back, telling myself I could endure it a little longer. Mu Wanning acted like the most devoted girlfriend every day, practically wanting to tuck me into her pocket to keep me safe. If this weren't part of a mission, I think spending a simple, quiet life with Mu Wanning wouldn't be so bad. The new year is almost here. Mu Wanning interrupted my train of thought, blurting this out of the blue. I looked at the bare trees outside the window. We've known each other for almost a year. The moment Mu Wanning said this, I was about to nod instinctively when I suddenly froze. I turned to look at her, stunned, and said, "You must be mistaken. We've known each other for 2 years." "Is that so?" Mu Wanning turned her face away. My heart pounded in my chest. Was that truly a slip of the tongue? I highly doubted it. I had a keen sense of impending crisis. "On New Year's Eve, can you spend it with me?" As Mu Wanning said this, she turned her head slightly to meet my searching gaze, her eyes fixed on my own flustered ones as I nodded frantically. Then she added, "Just the two of us." Originally, Gu King had wanted the two of them to come home for the new year. But after being deceived by a woman and having raised another's daughter for nearly 20 years for nothing, he suddenly had an epiphany, believing I was the only one he could truly rely on. Although Gu King never spoke of his heartache, his concern for me had indeed doubled. When I told Gu King I wanted to spend the new year alone with Mu Wanning, he was silent for a long while before saying, "Fine, you young people have your own lives. Dad won't interfere. Just let me know if you need anything." "Thanks," I said casually. Gu King paused and sighed. "You're my son. It's what I should do. There's no need for thanks." I didn't feel particularly involved in the start of the school's winter break, as many couples bid each other tearful goodbyes at the school gates. Mu Wanning patted my shoulder. Did you clear everything out of the school? Are you not planning on coming back next year? My expression darkened. That was, indeed, what I was thinking. For this month of winter break, I would be with Mu Wanning. My goal was simple, to lower her darkening value as quickly as possible to prevent further trouble. By the time school started again, the news of my death would likely have reached the campus. I didn't want my parents or Mu Wanning to go through the trouble of collecting my belongings, lest seeing them would only stir up painful memories. Didn't I move out of the school a while ago? It was too much of a hassle to pack everything before, so this is the perfect chance to move it all out. I smiled and made an excuse. Mu Wanning pressed her lips together, saying nothing. As the days passed, the festive atmosphere of the new year grew stronger. Mu Wanning appeared to take this very seriously, having cleaned their duplex apartment until it was spotless well in advance. I teased her, calling her a river snail maiden. Mu Wanning just glanced at me. Have you been unhappy lately? I casually tossed a cherry to her. She caught it with a raised hand and then stared at me intently for a long moment. I rushed to her side and leaned down to look at her face. Did I say something to upset you? Mu Wanning set down the broom, a pale smile on her lips. I was just thinking about how my mother can't be with me for the new year this year. I'm still not used to it. I stiffened. I had forgotten. I had grown somewhat detached from life and death, but Mu Wanning was a real person. No one who had just lost their mother could genuinely smile on such a joyous day of reunion. My expression sobered as I said in a low voice, "I'm sorry." "It's nothing. Life and death are fated," Mu Wanning said, shaking her head. I wrapped my arms around her neck. "But it's okay. You have me now. If you'll let me, I can stay with you for a very long time." Mu Wanning didn't seem particularly surprised or pleased. I nodded earnestly. "I'm not lying to you. You'd better not be." I realized Wanning was strange. I had noticed it early on. Her words, her behavior. If it weren't for the fact that the technology in Mu Wanning's era, however advanced, gave her no way of knowing about AI systems, and thus no way to conceive of such a wild idea, I would have suspected she had seen through my identity. The system probably wasn't so bored that it would make me capture the heart of another mission executor, I mused. I waited with eager anticipation for New Year's Eve. When I saw what she was holding, I froze. What had happened the last time I got drunk was still crystal clear in my mind. Mu Wanning was unhurriedly opening a bottle of red wine. "It's a special occasion. Let's have a drink." "No, no way," I said, quickly waving my hands. Mu Wanning lowered her head and poured half a glass of wine. "It's just the two of us here. I'm not afraid of getting drunk." I watched her walk over with the wine, and I instinctively shrank back. "You're quite cute when you're drunk." Mu Wanning held the glass out to me. "It's sweet." "Yeah, right," I scoffed inwardly. It wasn't as if I had never had red wine before. This stuff has a serious kick. I really can't handle my alcohol. My face flushes after just a couple of sips, and after one glass, I start to lose control. When Mu Wanning saw I wouldn't take the glass, she downed one herself and sat down opposite me. She tapped the rim of her glass and then drank it all herself, to our meeting. My heart stirred. Mu Wanning grabbed the bottle and poured another glass, drinking it furiously and fast. I quickly covered the mouth of my glass. "You'll feel awful in a little while if you drink that." "If you drink it, then I won't." Mu Wanning's words made my eyes narrow. She slowly raised an eyebrow. "You really don't want to drink? Are you afraid you'll say something you shouldn't?" Mu Wanning said it in a half-joking tone. My body went rigid. I tend to make a fool of myself when I drink too much, and I don't want to lose face in front of the person I like. You've done that plenty of times before. I gritted my teeth, and after a long hesitation, said, I'm not in good health. Mu Wanning froze, seeming to remember, and quickly took the wine away. I'm sorry, I forgot. This time, I could clearly feel that Mu Wanning was testing me. She definitely suspected something. Looking back on my actions, every single one had flaws. Any normal person would have doubted my identity, let alone a criminal mastermind like her. I had miscalculated. I thought to myself that I couldn't wait any longer. I had to take the offensive. It was now or never. I spent half the night looking after Mu Wanning. She clearly couldn't drink either. The moment the alcohol hit, she was propping her head up, her eyes never once leaving me. Her stare made my skin crawl, and I reached out to wave a hand in front of her eyes. Mu Wanning irritably pushed my hand away. After a moment's pause, she beckoned again. I had no idea what she was thinking. There was no point in arguing with a drunk. But as I walked up to her, she gave me a forceful tug. I lost my balance and braced my hands on her shoulders. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you must answer me truthfully. Mu Wanning's words left no room for refusal. I hesitated for a moment before nodding. Mu Wanning took my wrist and began to slowly knead it. Her eyes were bloodshot, and while the action seemed proper, it was intensely sensual. She lifted her gaze, her eyes shimmering, her lips a pale shade. Do you really like me? Stunned for a second, I nodded. My slight movement seemed to grate on Mu Wanning. Mu Wanning took a deep breath and asked again, Do you have an ulterior motive for getting close to me? Isn't liking you enough? I had grown suspicious, so I put on a stern face, forcing a serious expression. Mu Wanning opened her mouth as if to ask something more, but in the end, she said nothing. She reached out and hugged me. Don't lie to me. Mu Wanning's voice was soft. The scent of alcohol and her hot breath fanned across my ear, causing my face to gradually flush as if on fire. I shied away, ticklish. Her hand roamed around my neck. Anyone can lie to me, but not you. Mu Wanning said gravely. Why? I turned my head in confusion and was taken aback by her expression. I sensed a subtle tenderness. I've always been sensitive to danger. For instance, right now, held in Mu Wanning's fiery embrace, I felt a chill run through my entire body. Mu Wanning's voice softened, taking on a more tender tone. Because I trust you, and only you. My relationship with Mu Wanning was like walking on thin ice. After this journey, I had gained a new perspective. Being with Mu Wanning was like dancing with wolves. Mu Wanning suddenly seemed to remember something and fumbled in her pocket. I immediately wanted to jump away, terrified she would pull out a sharp weapon and end my life with a single blow. Mu Wanning's hands were shaking, and my heart was trembling. I felt a cold sensation on my wrist, and instinctively closed my eyes. The next moment, I heard Mu Wanning speak beside my ear. Gu Xian, Happy New Year. The sound of New Year's firecrackers erupted outside the window, and fireworks exploded in the sky, exceptionally brilliant and dazzling. I looked down and saw a watch on my wrist. One look was enough to tell it was expensive. I frowned. Mu Wanning asked, Don't you like it? It must have cost a lot, right? Not very expensive. It was on sale at the mall. Mu Wanning said, Wear it well, and don't lose it. I didn't ask her where the money came from. I turned, hugged her, and nodded solemnly. I realized something very serious. In my subconscious, I was still very afraid of Mu Wanning, a deep-seated instinctual fear. Mu Wanning seemed to be struggling to control her emotions, her hand gradually resting on the side of my waist. I lowered my gaze, my eyes evasive. Can I kiss you? After Mu Wanning said this, her face drew closer and closer to mine. My heart pounded wildly, and my eyes widened, completely at a loss. The sweet scent of red wine lingered on her breath. Just when our lips were a mere centimeter apart, she suddenly stopped, looked at me, and sighed. Let's go to sleep, it's very late. My throat felt a bit dry, and I paused. No more kissing. So impatient. Mu Wanning scoffed. She put me down on the floor and pulled down the side of my clothes that had been hitched up. Let's wait, we can kiss later. I've been drinking. After saying this, Mu Wanning went straight to the bathroom, leaving me completely bewildered. I didn't know that after the bathroom door closed, Mu Wanning stared at her reflection in the mirror, turned on the faucet, and cried with suppressed sobs for a long time. By the time she came out, I was already fast asleep on the sofa, dead to the world. She didn't know why, but she felt a desperate urge to memorize my appearance. Mu Wanning brought a blanket and wrapped it around me. She watched me for as long as I slept. When I woke up, my eyes met Mu Wanning's, which were wide and bloodshot. Bleary-eyed, I stretched out my arms. Good morning. Villain's corruption value. I heard those words just as Mu Wanning pulled me into a sudden, tight embrace, our hearts pressing together. I suspected I was having an auditory hallucination. The system's notification continued to announce, item by item. Villain's corruption value, villain's affection level, 80. Congratulations to the host for achieving an A, rank completion. Reward, 1,000 points. Do you wish to exit the mission now? My body trembled and my brow furrowed, causing Mu Wanning's face to fill with concern. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? I looked at Mu Wanning with an expression of disbelief, completely clueless as to what was happening. Mu Wanning was just that kind of unpredictable person, always surprising me when I least expected it. Seeing that my expression was still off, Mu Wanning grew anxious. You didn't have another nightmare, did you? I reached out and hugged Mu Wanning tightly. In a daze, I rested my head on her shoulder. I only hesitated for a moment. I deftly opened the long, neglected point exchange menu. Flipping to the rarest items section, there was a function called stand-in AI. Generally speaking, after the host leaves a world, the body they occupied would also perish. Sometimes, to ensure the saved world continues to function normally, the host would redeem a stand-in to live on in their place. I had never used this function. For one, I was reluctant to spend the points. For another, the roles I took on were always cannon fodder, so the world would run perfectly with or without me. But Mu Wanning was different. I reached out and gathered a lock of her hair. I saw her look up at me with suspicion. I pressed my forehead against hers, already prepared. Her eyes were full of laughter. Don't you want to give me a kiss? No. Mu Wanning frowned, not understanding why I was smiling so happily. It was the first time she had ever seen me smile like that. Little did she know, it would also be the last time. I found it to be a great pity. I blinked, tilted my head, and asked again, Are you sure you don't want to give me a kiss? Next time. Mu Wanning stood up. After a moment's hesitation, I stepped onto the sofa to stand up. I wrapped an arm around Mu Wanning's neck, leaned in, and kissed her forehead. Thinking about leaving, I actually felt a little bit reluctant. But only a little. I kept trying to mentally prepare myself. They were just people in a parallel world, completely unrelated to me. I couldn't abandon my own reality for the sake of a target character. It's still early, you can sleep a while longer. I'll go get breakfast. The same as before. 3 steamed buns and a bowl of congee. I nodded. I should buy 2 more eggs. Mu Wanning grabbed her wallet and went out. She felt a pang of unease as she stepped over the threshold. She couldn't help but turn her head to look at the young man lying on the sofa. I was looking at her too. Gu Xian. I'm leaving. Mu Wanning pressed her lips together, her steps heavy. Be careful on your way. I gave a small smile. The moment the door closed, I reached over and grabbed an unopened bottle of soda. Numbly, I pulled the tab. Someone must have shaken the soda, because the bubbles rushed out, fizzing all over my hand. A sweet and tangy scent filled the air. There's nothing so great about Mu Wanning anyway, I mumbled. She's cold, ruthless, and pathologically sensitive. I tilted my head back and took a gulp, a dry feeling catching in my throat. If I don't leave now, the mission might never be completed. I said, if I leave an AI substitute, it will take good care of Mu Wanning for me. That's right, isn't it? The assistant reserves the right to remain silent. I stood up and touched the watch on my wrist. You know, it's actually quite good looking. There's still 1 month left, if you really can't bear to part, if you really can't. Who said I can't bear it? I retorted stubbornly. Provoked by the assistant, I spoke. Requesting departure from the world. Host request received. Initiating departure from world. Estimated time, 1 minute. So short, not even enough time to finish a drink. I felt a tinge of regret. I glanced at the tightly closed door. I opened the advanced tab and redeemed an AI substitute. When setting its attributes, I hesitated for a moment before selecting the 3 tags: kind, cheerful, and sentimental. Clutching the soda bottle, I felt my consciousness being pulled away. In the final moment, I thought I saw Mu Wanning. The connection between people is truly a strange thing. When her mother passed away, Mu Wanning had felt a sudden heart palpitation and an inexplicable urge to cry. She had etched that feeling deep into her memory. For some reason, on this perfectly ordinary day, filled with the vibrant energy of life, Mu Wanning felt an inescapable chill. She was waiting in line, yet to buy my favorite meal. Suddenly, a dull ache gripped her heart, a heart-wrenching pain that gradually spread through every fiber of her being. Passers-by noticed something was wrong and moved to support her. Suddenly recalling my strange behavior over the past 2 days, Mu Wanning pushed through the crowd, ignoring their attempts to stop her, and rushed home faster than she ever had in her life. It was too late. The soda bottle slipped from my hand, its red liquid gurgling onto the floor. Mu Wanning could barely breathe. She slowly approached me. I seemed exhausted. Mu Wanning stood by my side for a long while, but I remained completely unaware. With a trembling hand, she checked my breathing. It was shallow, but undeniably there. What are you doing? Mu Wanning swallowed hard. I was truly there and alive, yet Mu Wanning's heart felt empty. Are you feeling unwell anywhere? What's wrong? The boy blinked. Weren't you just going to buy me breakfast? So, where is the breakfast? I had successfully arrived at the system's central control platform. I had to remain here for a while, as the system needed to find a real world for her that most closely resembled mine, and then send me there. Bored and with time to kill, I sat in front of the large screen to watch Wanning's interactions with the AI. Mu Wanning, looking as if she had recovered something precious, hugged the AI tightly. For some reason, I felt a twinge of jealousy. The AI substitute had taken over my body, and with it, all the memories stored inside. I watched Mu Wanning from in front of the screen. With each probing test, an inexplicable panic began to set in. With a guilty conscience, I was terrified that Mu Wanning would discover something was amiss. Host real-world matching is complete. You may disconnect from the system tomorrow at 12 o'clock and return to the real world. We wish you a happy life. I saw a large bouquet of roses floating towards me in midair, and I reached out to hold them. The pervasive sense of unreality finally receded, grounding me back in my body. I was leaving. I was finally leaving. I wept with joy. But one should never get too happy, as extreme joy can easily turn to sorrow. For a moment, I took my eyes off the main screen. I turned to examine my own real world. In this world, my identity was shown as a second-year high school student. Excellent grades. Handsome and kind-hearted. A good family background as well. I wondered, then, how did I, of all people, end up bound to this damn system? Before I could figure it out, I heard a system warning. Data anomaly in the third parallel world. Immediately after, the entire central control hall began to flash with a blood-red light. I scrambled over to Mu Wanning's monitoring screen. There I saw a scene I would likely never forget for the rest of my life. On the screen, the AI substitute was sound asleep, while Mu Wanning lay beside him, stroking his cheek again and again. Her movements were quite large, yet the AI never stirred. A scan detected that the concentration of sleeping medication in the AI's body was as high as 30%. Mu Wanning removed the watch from his wrist, leaned over him, and said softly, "You lied to me. Gu Xian." At that moment, my heart skipped a beat. What did I do wrong? Why do you want to leave me? I was stunned. I quickly cried out. What was happening? How had Mu Wanning become like this? What was she saying? I had absolutely no way to return to the world to stop anything. I watched helplessly, my eyes fixed on Mu Wanning's hands. They clamped around the neck of the AI double. Her gaze was frighteningly cold. The data displayed villain's favorability 100, villain's corruption 100. I clutched my head and cried in anguish. What in the world was this? Even if the system was malfunctioning, it couldn't possibly produce such absurd data, could it? I think I understand your objective now. Mu Wanning didn't tighten her grip. She looked up sharply, her eyes fixed directly on the screen. I'll give you 5 minutes. If I don't see you, I will do as you wish. What did she mean, as I wish? I was frantic with anxiety. After watching one of her movies and spending so much time with her, I couldn't claim to understand Wanning completely, but I knew exactly what she was thinking now. The view shifted, and I saw Mu Wanning go into the kitchen, grabbing a knife with a clatter. Something in my mind snapped. Holding the knife, Mu Wanning approached the AI, her eyes chillingly cold. She looked up at the screen. 1 minute left. As she continued her countdown, Mu Wanning suddenly raised the sharp knife high in her hand. At the same time, the blood-red light in the system space grew more and more intense. The assistant's urgent voice suddenly rang out. Warning, warning, the target's corruption level has surpassed 1,000. The entire world is on the verge of collapse. The host is now being assigned the final conquest mission. Remain in this world and live a long life with the target. Now repairing the damage sustained by the host. Meanwhile, a tearful Mu Wanning was preparing to plunge a sharp knife into the AI's heart. Just then, a dazzling white light flashed. The AI on the bed had vanished, and I had grabbed Mu Wanning's wrist with one hand. Mu Wanning looked at me. The sharp knife in her hand clattered to the floor. She grabbed my collar and pushed me down onto the bed. She muttered incessantly, "What on earth did I do wrong? Gu Xian, why did you have to leave me?" Looking at Mu Wanning, I broke free from her grip on my collar. I reversed our positions, pinning her to the bed. Then I suddenly kissed her. I felt the warmth of her lips. Mu Wanning froze. Half a minute later, I looked at the stunned Mu Wanning. "I'm sorry, I'll never leave again."